Hello everybody, how are you? I don't have coffee today, I have squash because we're quite late and I want to sleep tonight. Also, I'm looking like this. Been home all day, don't have any makeup on, and I'm wearing my glasses. So there we go. There's no ring light to help me out because you get the reflection on here. So we're just gonna sit and chat, okay? I'm also quite dehydrated today, so the squash is a good idea. I realized today, I know that I didn't do my check-in when I got paid in August. I didn't do a lot of things when I went back to school, okay? I got behind and I was like, nah. But I got paid a couple of days ago. I thought I wouldn't get paid till Sunday. So Sunday is the first day of the working week here. So I'll sit down and do my monthly budget for that. But there were a few things going on and I thought I'd chat to you about them because potentially it has the possibility of changing kind of some of the numbers you see. So if you've been with me on this little financial journey of mine over the past few years, I have been working really hard to save as much as I can because I started really late with my future savings, my retirement savings, and that scared me quite a lot. And because I do tend to work abroad, I don't have workplace pensions. Now, if you're from the UK, workplace pension, it's part of the contribution that your employer makes to your retirement. You know, like the match they do on the salary. I've always worked abroad, so I've never gotten that kind of top up, which means that my responsibility for my retirement is complete. I need to fund it entirely myself. Now that's okay, or at least it's more okay now than it was when I started, because I realized this on the run up to 40. And I was like, I should probably do something about that. So fear was spiraling me through a lot of these years where I was just really putting away as much as I physically could. And that's not a bad thing. Fear can be a very good motivator. But recently, and I know I've said this for a while now, I've been feeling the pinch of that a little bit. And also, life doesn't stay the same. And that's kind of what's been happening here recently as well. Now, I do an end of year reflection on things and what my goals are and what my goals were this year, and you will get that at the end of this year. I also realized I haven't been doing my quarterly check-ins like I did last year. Just forgot about them because I am an awesome adult, but there we are. So I did have some goals for this year, and one of the goals was to hit a milestone in my savings. It was to hit a combined total of 100,000. I am actually really close to that right now. I'm at like 95 something, I do believe. Now that's a combined total of things I've put away in different places, but I'm at about 95 something, and that's quite a lot of progress for the amount of time I've been doing this. But interestingly, I've been talking to my father recently, and he's looking to kind of go more into retirement. And I say more into retirement because for some people, retirement isn't just a stop. My dad has always had his own business, and he went through quite a lot of personal changes in the last couple of years. And he's tired. He's ready to go more into his retirement and kind of back away from the business a little bit. But because of the changes he's gone through in the last couple of years, he's not in the situation financially that he looked like he was going to be in. I'm not going to give too many details here because it's his life, but essentially he got divorced, and so the assets were split up a certain way. So when he was planning his pension, he lived through a lot of the pension scandals in the UK. So he really didn't trust the idea of a pension, because we had a period of time in the UK where people ran off with the pension pots and, they lost everything. So he always was quite afraid of doing that. And the idea was at some point that, he had property, he had other investments, and when he eventually sold those, that would be his retirement. And he also had the possibility of, keeping renting it out and that income supplementing his retirement as well. There is a reason I'm telling you the story, by the way. It's had an impact on me. I don't just share things in general. So right now in the UK, the tax situation, particularly for the self-employed, the small business owners, is pretty bad. And he would get absolutely smacked with tax if he were to dispose of his houses, to the tune of he'd basically get a third of the value. And because he doesn't have the type of assets he thought he was going to have, because his assets were spread around in different types, and now with the divorce, obviously some has gone to his ex-wife, he is now a bit worried about sort of having enough cash flow to fund his retirement. He does have the state pension. He's probably going to have to make a house purchase though, and he's just a bit worried about it. You know, this just is a little bit of a left turn in the path. He's not ruined or anything, he's just having to look at alternatives. Now, we were chatting about that, and obviously I've been very much in my future planning because I'm terrified of being in that situation where like I'm older and I don't have something planned out. Now, one of the things I have to do when I'm older, when I retire, is going to be buying a house. I don't want to be a landlord. I don't want the trouble of managing renting out a house. I don't really have the money to be saving up a deposit and putting it towards a house right now, the costs involved in that. And there is a danger involved in that. And an uncertainty in terms of what if your house isn't being rented out. You know, there's a lot of what ifs. I would rather just save my money, make a cash purchase later, and know that my house was mine and I had a secure place to live. But the thing is, I want that for my dad as well. So we were chatting and I suggested, off the top of my head, some possibilities he could consider. If it's a case of trying to get a permanent increase in income, there's a couple of ways we could look at it. I sent him some information on annuities because he could perhaps make a purchase there and then at least he'd have a guarantee in terms of how much he was getting. And one of the suggestions I made, with absolutely no research, we're not just going to do this, okay? So I know there's going to be people in the comments panicking on my behalf. We have done nothing on this. We're just going to look into it. Was potentially saying, all right, if he's going to buy a house, buy the house, put it in my name, I would sign some kind of paperwork saying he had the right to live in it for life so that he would have a secure place to live. And I would perhaps pay an amount that we agreed on to him as a kind of mortgage payment. The house would be paid off, but he would get cash flow to the tune of whatever number we decided on. And then when he was finished using the house would be mine. We have not looked into this. This might not be possible, or if it's possible, it might not be a benefit to him. But given that I need to get a house when I retire, it's a question of, okay, well, if it means my dad gets to have a secure retirement and the money that I would have put towards saving for this house still gets me a house, like, I feel like there's something we could maybe do to work that out so that we can both be comfortable with our decision. And you know, it's a hard life out there. I don't want any family member of mine to be in a position where they feel like they can't afford to live. Even if they can, it's just a worry. Like, there are things we can do. Now, I don't know if any of this is going to come to fruition, right? It's a case of him talking to the accountant in terms of the houses, the business, the things he wants to do to step away from his working life, and what would happen with the assets and the liquidation of the assets and where we would be in terms of taxes. And I also need financial advice in that regards into like the consequences it would have to me, or potential consequences it would have to me. If we did it, we'd need to legalize the agreement somehow. And again, I don't know how that works. We have to take advice in all areas of this. And it might be in a fundamental sense that my dad and I can't agree on a number. Like, maybe I can't afford to do this. Maybe I can, but he needs more, and just selling the property, taking the hit with tax, and using that money in a self-funded way is perhaps a better idea. I don't know what would work better for him, and it's really about what works better for him. Why am I telling you all this? Well, it's because it made me look again at the numbers I had been crunching for my retirement. Because essentially I then had to make two plans. One, if we didn't move forward with this and I continued, and one, if we did move forward with this, essentially how much could I afford in that scenario? And I need those numbers if we're even going to have a conversation about moving forward with it. Like I said, it's not a guarantee. But something else I've been feeling, as I said before, is that I feel like the fear of the future is making me put so much away that I'm feeling the burn of it. And I want to refill my sinking funds. I want to shore up my emergency fund a little bit. I've got quite an expensive medical cost that I'm paying for right now. So money feels a bit tighter in my savings, and I'm not in trouble. I'm still earning a good amount, and I'm lucky enough to be in a position where I can put away a good amount. But am I perhaps pushing too hard for the future and compromising the present? Or is that a trick my brain is playing on me because I want to be more comfortable right now and wah. So when I was doing the plan of what if and looking at my numbers, I lowered the amount I was putting into different accounts to see kind of theoretically, because it's all guesswork at this point, it's just how logical and how realistic your guesswork is, but theoretically where my numbers would be, and if I did that, could I still afford what I'm planning to do, which at the moment and subject to change would be when I retired, buy a lifetime annuity, depending on where interest rates were and how much I could get, and then live on the annuity until my state pension kicked in, and then I'd have more money and make a house purchase of my own or acquire a house if I went with dad's side of things, and which would mean I'd have a secure place to live. So essentially, this 16 minutes in the raw unedited footage of me waffling is to say, I think now I'm in a better position with my savings. I can afford to put less away, but not compromise my goals. And I think I would be more comfortable doing that because I want to put more into my short and medium term sinking funds right now and still be secure in my long-term savings. Now, when and if this happens, I'm not sure. But even if I don't come to an agreement with my father and we just say, hey, I don't think this is going to work out, or the benefits are just not good enough to do this, or what have you, or he can just get an annuity and get the same effect, so there's no need, I think I would like to slightly lower my contributions into my future funds and start shoring up the things I have for shorter and medium term goals. To me, the longer term ones always felt like security, and they still feel like that. Now I'm redoing the numbers and I'm like, oh, actually, I'm not good. I'm okay. I can keep going with that and still meet those goals and put some more money in other places. You may see some changes in what I'm doing in other places. I hope this made sense and just wasn't a mess. It might still have been a mess as long as it makes sense, you know? I do think it's important to reflect on your goals, and they always say don't be emotional with your money. And I thought, no, I'm not being emotional. I'm being really rational and I'm just really putting a lot away. But your needs change over time. And do I need to go this hard for safety? And the answer perhaps is not, depending on how we move forward. So yeah, that's where I am. I'm just putting it out into the internet. I was working on my budget for the next couple of months today, looking at kind of the things I could change. Did I want to change that? Where do I want that money to go, etc., etc. So I've got a lot of this bubbling in my brain. You likely will not see any big changes in my next months. I might end up just keeping on my current track until I hit that 100,000 aim, which I could do by the end of the year. I did say at the beginning of this year that it might end up going into Q1 of 2026, and that is still true. But once I hit that 100,000, certainly I will make changes, but I'm going to look at it and see. So I will get September's monthly budget out pretty soon, in the next day or two, hopefully, or the next month's budget with September's paycheck, which I received the other day. And we can maybe revisit this end of the year when I do my end of year reflection, depending on if anything changes and how fast we move or don't move with my father. And yeah, we can maybe look into some different numbers. But if you see changes coming up, I will explain them later. If you don't, I'll still explain them later. So, thank you for listening. Appreciate you. And I'll see you next time. Bye.